the station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teal. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teal, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hello and welcome to the Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm your host, Marcia Teal, and I'm so glad you could join us today for another program. This show is specifically for family caregivers, family non-paid caregivers who take care of someone who can't care for themselves. And we focus on dementia as one of the issues because it is so prevalent and caregivers are thrown into this role a lot of times without any kind of warning. They aren't planning for it. They don't know what to do. And so this show helps caregivers to know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and what to look forward to down the road so that they're prepared. And so we have wonderful guests that talk about their expertise, anything from elder law planning, financial planning, social workers, physicians when it comes to the diagnosis. And so this program is for caregivers and about caregivers. So if you think about it, caregiving is something that is really difficult, not knowing how to do it, most people not being prepared, and they're going through caregiving many times for years and years, especially when it comes to someone living with Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. And during that time, not only is a spouse a caregiver for the spouse that has the dementia, but a lot of times they have to take on other roles. That might be mowing the grass because the spouse is not able to do that anymore the way they used to. It might mean taking on the cooking responsibilities. It might mean writing out the checks and paying the bills. So there are a lot of things that caregivers have to do that's just not about caregiving. It's about taking on extra duties and taking on the role of the person that you're caring for. So when the person passes away, the caregiver is now no longer a caregiver, but they're left not knowing what's next, how to do everything else that they need to do. And a lot of times this is a very, very difficult time for them because they are lost. They've been so focused on caregiving and all that that entails, but now they're going through grief, they're going through anger, they're going through fear, even depression. And so a lot of times people should not make certain decisions when it comes to, are they going to move? You know, are they going to sell their house? What should they do with certain funds that they might have? Because it's a very vulnerable time. And so this brings up the topic of financial planning. And it's very important for everyone to do financial planning, to know what they're going to do with their funds and how they're going to live and what they're going to pay for and how the funds are going to last the rest of their life. But when it comes to a spouse who now is left with everything to do, it's really difficult because they don't have that partner to work with them and to make those kinds of decisions. And because they're going through a lot of emotions, it can be a very, very difficult time. So today I have a special guest who is a financial planner. She's been one since like 1990, and she's going to be talking today about what people should do to be prepared. And if you're a caregiver or you've been a caregiver, what you should know to make your life a little bit easier when it comes to financial planning and those tough decisions that you might need to make. Her name is Karen Roberts, and she's with me today in the studio. Karen is a financial advisor with Emerald Financial Group. And welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I met you. I just thought you were great. You have a lot of experience being a financial planner since 1990, but you have a special niche. And what I have found out about you is that you focus on women specifically, and you help women understand their role and their relationship with money. And you have been a mentor in the financial services industry, talking about specifically women and money issues. So I think that's great, but why are you decided to focus on women?
So that's actually a little bit of a long story, but I'll shorten it for you. I was in the industry for a really long time and built my own practice, and along the way became part of this organization called Women in Financial Services. Through that, I ended up becoming national president, and I toured the country. And I got to talk to CEOs, general agents, really bigwigs up in the financial services arena. And you want to know what I realized? None of them were women. And so women were not being served in the industry, because I always thought, why, just because I'm a woman, should I work with women? Women were not being served. And if they were being served, they weren't being served correctly. So I came back from that and said, we're going to turn the practice and we are going to focus on women. So I have plenty of male clients, but I really do work with the woman, hold their hand, and really walk them through money.
So, Karen, is there really a difference between the way women look at finances as opposed to men? Is there a difference in that?
Well, so I'm going to give you a scenario. You're out at the golf course with your friends, and the boys are in their golf carts, and what are they talking about?
Business.
What did they buy Bitcoin for? What did they buy Coinbase for? And the girls are in their golf cart talking about
Their new dress.
exactly. And that's why men just naturally talk about money. Women were raised not to talk about money. Now, I hope into the future that changes, but today, that's the utter difference between men and women. Men were just raised talking about it, and women were raised to be afraid of it and unsure of it.
Wow.
And I want to change that.
All right. Well, we're going to hear how you're changing that. Absolutely. So, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned about caregivers and taking care of their spouse, and sometimes having a new role. And one of the roles is taking on the financial responsibility. Now, it doesn't mean that the man always did it and now the woman has to do it.
Right.
Sometimes the women were in charge of the bill paying, and then the men are left also to pick up the pieces.
Right.
Okay, so it can work either way. But when we're talking about women specifically, they usually have come away, especially in traditional roles, where you married at a very young age and the man always took care of the finances, and the little wife got her little allowance, right? And here's your little
God, I hope that doesn't happen anymore, but I know it does.
here's your little pin money, and here's your grocery money, and he doles out her allowance to her, right? But times have changed, and things happen. And now the wife finds herself in a position where her husband had dementia. He can't do the books anymore. He can't balance the checkbook. He doesn't know what end is up when it comes to those types of things. And so now she's having to take on that responsibility. And then after he passes, it's all her responsibility. So how does the death of a spouse or even the sickness of a spouse start to impact the decision making of the well spouse? In this particular case, we're talking about the woman.
So not only are you now a caregiver, but now you're a money giver. And if you've never really handled money, you're not really sure what to do. And everybody around you wants to tell you how to spend your money and how to handle your money and what to do with your money. So, what I try and tell people in this situation, and again, predominantly women, but there are men in this situation also, is you need to find someone that you trust and learn. Because you really have to go back to the basics of what are the bills? How do I pay the bills? What money do I even have, and what does it mean? Right? Because I find that people are not clear. Money is just this inanimate object sitting in an account somewhere. And people don't really understand how to get it from that account into their life to spend. So I talk to people and just sit them down, and we start with the basics 101 of what is money, what is a budget, and how to pay bills. And I know that sounds really basic, but you would be surprised. Now, I would say if, God forbid, something happened to me and my husband had to pay bills, he would need help because he's never paid them. And not that he's a teacher, he's intelligent.
He needs to hire you.
He would need to hire me, exactly. But again, because he's not ever paid the bills, so for me, I've made sure that it's super easy to figure out, but most people don't. What we've learned is couples don't even talk about money until it's too late.
Well, even people getting married before they enter into a partnership, a legal partnership, they don't even talk about money.
Right. And I love to get those couples in before they get married to have a conversation with them to say, okay, how do you feel about money? What is your concept of money? Who's the spender? Who's the saver? Because typically that's what you have in a relationship. And if you can avoid some of those arguments, you'll have a long life and be able to care for each other later on. And I will share with you, over the past couple months, we had a client who owns a business end up in the hospital for a couple of weeks. The wife in week 2 called me hysterical, crying, not because of him, but because she didn't know how to pay the bills. So I told her, I said, listen, if you need me to, I'm on a plane coming to you right now to teach you how to do this.
She didn't know how to write a check out?
She didn't know how to write a check out. She didn't understand any of their finances. And fortunately, she had me, so I helped her, over the phone best I could. But I said, he didn't pass away, thank God. But if he did, I would be on a plane to help immediately, because it's just sad to me.
That's a crisis when you can't pay the bills.
Right. And you have money. So it's not like there wasn't money. You just don't know how to get it.
Wow. So if a spouse is sick and they pass away, in this case he didn't, that was good for him, but it does happen, and the well spouse, who we're going to be talking about, is female, what are some of the first things that they need to do? Because this is a very difficult, vulnerable time in this person's life. And, there's a saying out there that when you lose a spouse, you shouldn't make any major decisions for a year.
Right.
Well, you can't wait a year to make certain decisions about money, right?
Right.
And there are bills to be paid and different things. So they say don't rush into any big decision making, but every day we make decisions.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things that the widow would need to know? What are some of the things that they make mistakes on that you see very common? And then let's talk about how they can avoid those.
Okay. So the first thing that I would, not the first thing, obviously the first thing you want to do is breathe and grieve, right? However long those first couple weeks take you, for some people it's a week and for some people it's a month, but you need to grieve. Bills will still be there when you're ready. But when you're ready, the first thing you need to do is call whoever's in charge of the money, your financial advisor. So, and when you call your financial advisor, if they're unwilling to meet with you and take care of you and help you, change financial advisors.
But Karen, a lot of people just have always done it themselves.
And
they might not have a financial
advisor. And a lot of
advisor.
people don't have a financial advisor. And so therefore the first thing they have to do is figure out where is their money. So is all your money at Vanguard? Is all your money at Fidelity, which are the normal places for money? And what does your money look like? And how do you relate to money? Right? So now you're grieving and you need to relate to that money. So I would say the first thing you have to do is figure out your bills and get them paid. Utilize your kids. Your kids are great, not all kids. Kids are great, not all kids. So you know your kids, and you know whether your kids are looking out for your best interest or their best interest. So please you asked, what are the common pitfalls? The common pitfalls are the kids that are seeing dollar signs. Don't allow them into the money. So again, you know your kids. I mean, I have 4 kids. I know my kids. We know my oldest is not going to be responsible for any money because he's not responsible. I mean, he's very responsible, but not with money. So therefore, we pick the child who's responsible with money to be that responsibility. So, and I share that story with everyone. Pick your child who you know will be looking out for your best interest. So, and then have them sit down with you and figure out the bills. But it's not their life to live, it's yours. So once you get through the first couple months, then it's a matter of figuring out, okay, how much money do I have? What am I spending? Do I want to live in this house? I know we talk about not making a move for a year, but sometimes you don't want any part of being in that house, especially if you have caretaken for your spouse for years in that house. Memories, feelings, smells. People just want to move, and that's okay. But you have to understand what you can and cannot afford and what that means.
So a lot of people are just not math oriented, right? They just don't like numbers.
Right.
They're not a numbers person. So in this case, if the children weren't around, or maybe they didn't have children, they need to find a trusted person. So it could be somebody, a best friend that you trust. But if you don't really have that person, this sounds like this would be the time to maybe invest in finding a financial planner.
Yes. Yes. It's definitely the time to engage a financial planner. When you're looking for a financial planner, you can always call me, no. But when you're looking for a financial planner, you want to talk to your friends that you trust, right? So don't go to the pool and ask everyone at the pool who their financial advisor is, because you'll get 10 different names. But you want to talk to the friends that you trust who are most like you, because they will tell you, oh, no, you won't work with my financial advisor, or no, my financial advisor would be great. And go have a meeting with 3 different advisors.
So check them out.
And check them out, because this is a person who is going to walk you through the next stage of life. So, and if I can share, I had a woman, and she wasn't all that old. She was mid-70s when her husband passed away. And she had money in a brokerage account. She had never met the financial advisor that was running the money. Yeah. So it was like she didn't know. She came to me thinking that she was living on her own Social Security. And I'm like, you have to have money somewhere, right? All of a sudden, she had maybe $1.5 million in a brokerage account
that she didn't even know was there.
She didn't know was there, nor did she understand how that related to paying her bills and living her life. So we really had to take a step back. So not only was she dealing with the grieving, but she was dealing with the not knowing. And you never want to criticize someone for not knowing, because again, unfortunately, welcome to our society, we don't talk about money. I wish we did. I want to change the conversation. I don't know how. We're working on it.
Well, you know, what you said is so true, because even adult children that are, you know, in their 30s, 40s, 50s even, try to have the conversation with their parents, because they know their parents are getting older, and they want to have that kind of a conversation to integrate, you know, the right things to do and the right things to set up, and the parents just don't want to share. And I think, you know, they're very private.
Right.
And so people go through their life not really knowing until all of a sudden mom and dad have passed away, and now all this is left for the kids too. So if a person is looking at their finances, it would be smart to start having that conversation with their adult children and not wait until a crisis happens.
Absolutely. And one of the things you'll see on my shirt is rule breaker. You need to break that rule. And I try and talk to my clients all the time. Like, if you're not comfortable because you know that your kids aren't good with money, you don't want to tell them how much, that's fine. But they need to at least be introduced to your advisor and understand where your money is. So I will tell you a personal story. My in-laws are both, one is bedridden and one is taken care of. It's a little of a nightmare out in Los Angeles, but we don't know what their accounts look like. And it is a second marriage of 40 years, but the steps hate each other. Not us, because we live here, but the people that live there, and I don't use that word lightly, but there's been huge arguments because nobody really knows what the parents ended up wanting to really happen. And that's just so sad to me. And it made me go home and have a conversation with my kids. And my oldest is only 30. So I'm already having those conversations. Have those conversations with your kids, please, because it'll make them feel better and you feel better.
Great. So if a spouse passes away and the well spouse, so lady that kind of is feeling overwhelmed and not knowing what to do, you have certain specific steps, like for the first month and the second month, that they should be doing, some specifics. Can you talk a few minutes about that?
Sure. So in the first month, you really just want to understand everything that you have. And again, figure out how to pay your bills, figure out what you need to do. In the second, third, fourth month is when you really want to get a handle on what you have and what your future is going to start to look like. So we don't want any major decisions, but we definitely want decisions being made.
Okay, sounds good. So that being said, would it also be prudent for someone to write out some goals maybe of what you talk about your life, you're going forward, your future. What about setting some goals or writing down a to-do list of things you'd like to do? Because obviously those kinds of things take money.
Yes.
Right? And you have to know if you can afford them.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, I had a friend who came into some money and she thought it was a windfall and she actually went on a big trip and spent it all, and now she is Medicare age, and she has no money.
Ugh.
And she made the decision to spend it, and now she has, issues financially, medically, emotionally.
Right.
And it's all about worry and fear and how am I going to afford this and what's my future look like? And so these are things that, she was younger when she did this, but she did not look toward her future.
Right. And you have to look towards your future regardless of what even if you're 80, you could still have 20 more years and you want to be able to live that life. So you have to look towards your future when you're making your goals. And please, if you get that inheritance, it's not yours to go buy a red Ferrari, right? Or to travel the world first class. Now, maybe it is. Maybe there's a lot of money there. But I'm going to say you do really want to set out your goals. And yes, you can spend a little bit of money in the beginning, but you really need to make sure that what you have, this is it. Especially if you're a spouse, this is it. You're not getting any more money. You need to make sure that money lasts, so please be very careful with it.
Yep, unless you really want to be a greeter at Walmart.
Exactly. And we don't want anyone to be a greeter. Now, some people are greeters because they like it, but we don't want you to have to be a greeter at Walmart. That's the difference. Money does not buy you happiness. It may in the moment, but it really doesn't. Money buys you choices. And we want to make sure that you make the best choice for your life, whatever that is in your life.
That sounds really good. On that note, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Karen is going to share some more interesting facts and figures and some wonderful tips. And we're also going to be giving away a free book. So get a pen and paper ready so you won't miss how to do that. We'll be right back.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marsha Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marsha. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts is a leader when it comes to memory care, and they have about 50 memory care assisted living communities across the United States. Arden Courts is there for you, the caregiver, and there for the person that has memory loss. And so because you're watching the show today or listening to it on iHeartRadio or local Southeast Florida radio, they want to give you this wonderful book. It's called the 36-Hour Day book. It's written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace. It is a wonderful resource for family caregivers. It explains the differences between the different types of dementias. It gives wonderful tips, and it helps a caregiver to understand what different behaviors mean and how to maybe adjust to them and how to deal with them. If you don't have this book, I highly recommend it, and it's absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email to get it. That email address is delray@arden-courts.com. That's Delray, D-E-L-R-A-Y, at Arden, A-R-D-E-N, courts, COURTS.com. Send an email with your name, address, and telephone number. Tell them that you heard about the free book, The 36-Hour Day, on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they will be happy to mail the book directly to you. I really, really strongly suggest that any caregiver, whether you're a brand new caregiver or a seasoned caregiver, to invest a little bit of time to send an email to get this book, because it really is a wonderful guide for you. So my special guest today is Karen Roberts. She is a financial planner with the Emerald Financial Group, and we're talking today about what happens when a spouse dies and has to take on, the other spouse has to take on the role of the finances, and how difficult that is and how to prepare for that. And that was all wonderful advice, Karen. You've been doing this a long time, and your expertise is helping women to understand their relationship with money. But now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, because something else that you have accomplished is pretty interesting, and it is a book that you wrote. I'm holding it up here, and it's simply called 20 Questions. Now, I flipped through the book, read a few of the chapters, and in the prologue of this book, you said, "My name is Karen Roberts, and I am a rule breaker." And I see you have that on your t-shirt today. What does that mean, that you're a rule breaker?
So it's interesting, because when people see this shirt, they're like, wait, aren't you like in the most conservative industry where you're not allowed to break any rules? And I said, well, I am, but here are the rules that we break. Be yourself, right? So I start out talking, look at what you're currently wearing. Whether you're driving home from work or you're hanging out at home, look at your nails. Are you wearing something? Are your nails painted a color that maybe people told you to do, but you'd really rather be dressed something else because you want to break those rules? So in my industry, we were always supposed to be in black suits, black briefcases, and I was like
Professional,
right, professional attire.
Financial planner, advisors.
I work with women. I'm intimidating to women in a black suit. So I threw all my suits away and started wearing clothes that make me comfortable. And if I'm comfortable, my clients are comfortable. And when I'm out and about, I mean, if I know many of you can't see, but my nails are blue. They're normally blue. They're normally sparkly, because it's fun and you should have fun. So when I talk about breaking the rules, it's not necessarily driving 100 miles an hour. It's not necessarily something we're getting thrown in jail for, but it's really breaking the rules and being the person that you want to be, not the person that you've been modeled to become.
So that's your philosophy, and that's what you are thinking, but why write a book about it?
So interestingly enough, the little story of the book is that I started out to write a book about women and money, right? That's what
Right.
we've been talking
That's
about.
what your expertise is.
That's what my expertise is. My editor, because I hired an editor, I'm not a very good writer. I'm a really good talker, so I needed someone to actually write the book. He was like, boring. Do you know how many books there are on the shelves about money and no one reads them? He said, so tell me what you really do with your clients. And I said, well, I sit him down, I find out everything about them, and I start asking them questions about what they want their life to look like. And he said, and there's your book. I said, what do you mean there's my book? He said, you ask questions. And that's how you get them to break the rules. And that's how you get them to go through change in their life. And I was like, that's exactly what I do. And that's how the book, 20 Questions, became a book.
And you wrote this during the pandemic.
I did. It was my pandemic baby. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was my I contracted in February, 3 weeks before shutdown. So once we went into shutdown, although many people were shut down, I was very much working because if you remember, the market was crashing at that time. But in between all of that, it was my joy to work on this book and to get the chapters done. And I published November of 2020.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
very exciting. So, there's 20 questions in here, but interestingly enough, you are a financial advisor, financial planner. But these questions are not about money. They're not about finances. They're not about what to do with your 401k. They're not about should I transfer my Roth? I mean, so how are these questions relevant to helping your clients?
So one of my eye-opening experiences was many, many years ago, a woman came into my office, prominent attorney, making bupkis. I mean, making nothing. And I looked at her, as we're talking.
She was making nothing?
Well, she was making $60,000 a year,
Which is
running
not-
a huge department.
And that's not a lot for
That's
an
not a lot
attorney,
for an attorney.
right?
So I said to her, what are you doing? Why aren't you? I don't know. I'm too afraid to ask for more money. And I thought, that's it. Stand up, assume the Wonder Woman pose. And for those of you that don't know it, it's hands on hip, chest out. I said, and you're going to prepare right now. You're going to go in the office tomorrow and you're going to demand double the salary. I can't do that. I said, yes, you can. And then we went through, this is my mantra that you can hopefully, can you see?
Yeah.
Sort of see. But basically, I'll read it to you. It says, I will do what I want. I am the creator of me. I am a Wonder Woman. I am fearless, and I will take control of my life. She marched into that office the next day. And you want to know what the male partner said?
I can't wait to hear.
It's about time.
Really?
And doubled her salary on the spot.
No way.
The only reason she wasn't making money is because she was too afraid to ask. And that's when I learned I had to start asking questions of people, because it's not about putting money into your 401k if you're not making enough money or getting paid your worth. It's about learning to ask the right questions and get people really onto the right path of what does your future look like for you. Now, not for everyone, but for you.
So these 20 questions, they all have a certain purpose then. And they probably all address a different aspect of life.
Absolutely. And they might not all pertain to everybody, but at some point in your life, they will pertain to you.
So how did you narrow down to just 20 questions? Because, I mean, I can think of 50 right now that I might want to ask of someone when we're talking about their life.
Right. And it was hard to narrow it down, but we wanted to make sure the book was readable. Right? Because if you get a book that's too thick, no one will pay attention. So really the questions are highlights of your life and helping you move forward. And for me, they were the 20 most important questions to ask yourself.
So the questions in this book, would they be applicable to like the widow we're talking about who lost a
Absolutely.
spouse? Would they be applicable to a married couple? Would they are they applicable to universally?
I think they're applicable universally to males and females, right? I think that both can answer the questions or at least start asking the questions because you won't always know the answer. The universe will sometimes just provide you with the answer, but if you don't ask the question, the universe doesn't provide you with anything, and you don't even know what you're looking for.
And that's sort of something common that people say. You'll never find what you're looking for if you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
I've heard that said quite a bit. Or people say, well, I'll know what I'm looking for when I find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that's kind of left up to chance.
That
right?
is left up to chance because you have to start asking yourself the questions. What are you looking for? What do you want out of life? And again, everyone wants something different. A caregiver who has taken care of their spouse for the last 5 years and the spouse has passed away and now is finally through some of the grieving and wakes up and says, what do I want to do for the next 20 years? Those are questions we want to ask the universe is what am I looking for?
Because if you don't ask yourself, and we're talking about asking ourselves, we're not talking about asking our kids or asking our neighbor, asking the mailman, what should I do? You're
Right.
asking yourself these questions. So it's a book of self-reflection
Yes.
and self-knowledge maybe to gain the knowledge of yourself, to start thinking about that.
Exactly.
And we're asking ourselves. And think about that scenario. If you've lost your spouse and you've been a caregiver for 5-10 years, and all of a sudden now you're alone, it could be devastating.
Yep.
It could be depressing. You could be full of fear of the unknown, fear of the future. You could be angry a lot because this happened to your family, it happened to you, your spouse. There's a lot of emotions when you have really changed your whole life.
Right.
And not that you've changed it, but it's just happened. Life happens, right? And so if you don't know what to do, most people do nothing,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so, or they procrastinate and do nothing, and that is also true of finances,
Yes,
right? And
absolutely.
making a budget and making a plan, which you help people do all the time. And if they don't do that, if they don't look at themselves and think, what do I want? They're just going to languish, and they're just going to have more of what they currently have without moving forward.
Right. And that's exactly it. We want to ask the hard questions. What do you want to do? What are you willing to give up to get what you want? How do you grow a great idea? How do you become unforgettable? Like, these are some of the questions that are in the book, and you have to really this is not a book you want to read in 5 minutes. This is a book you want to ask a question each day and see what the answers are. Because I think you would be surprised if you allowed your mind to really look at those answers. I mean, how do I grow a great idea? My great idea was really writing a book. I mean, my great idea wasn't inventing Facebook. It was writing a book and really getting out and talking to more women. What's your great idea? Because you all have one, but again, you've been told to put it in a box, and I'm here telling you as the rule breaker, break open the box. What is your good, and maybe your good idea is I want to get on a cruise ship and I want to travel the world for a year. And if that's your great idea, you owe it to yourself to pursue that and see if that's a possibility.
AKA chase your dreams.
Chase your dreams. Absolutely.
Make them come true. I love that. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Karen is going to share with us some of the specific questions. And I will tell you ahead of time, the answers are not in the book. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. My guest today is Karen Roberts. She is the founder, financial planner, and advisor of Emerald Financial Group. She is a financial planner since 1990, and she is helping women all over the United States, probably over the world even, that find out about her and her special services focused on women and helping women to understand their relationship with money, helping them to understand how money works and how they should grow their money and live their best life. And in doing that, Karen, during the pandemic, shared that she wrote this book, and it's simply called 20 Questions. 20 questions that Karen feels that people need to ask themselves in order to grow, in order to move forward. And we talked about Karen being a caregiver, and all of a sudden now the person you're caring for has passed away. And that may have taken 2, 10, even 20 years of your life, right?
Right.
That you were focused on them, because we know that most caregivers do not focus on themselves. They don't take care of themselves. They're so busy taking care of others. And we always stress that caregivers need to take care of themselves, right? Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to have the energy and the mindset, right, to do that. So this is a great book because it's helping for people that have lost a portion of their life to caregiving. And I don't mean it loss in that it wasn't beneficial, because obviously it's a great sacrifice. But those are years where they've lost maybe some of their dreams, some of their hopes, some of their plans, because their life took a detour with caregiving. And so now they need to step back, look at themselves, and ask some of these questions in your book called 20 Questions. I mean, it's just so simple. And by doing that, what are they going to find?
So you're not going to find answers in the book. So sorry. Because the answers are personal to you.
In here.
Exactly.
Or in here, right?
Exactly.
Or both.
Exactly. But you have to find 3 or 4 of the questions that resonate with you and start asking them. Start asking them every day and see what your answers are, and see who do you want to be, who do you want to become, what do you want to become, and are you capable? Now, I'm going to say one thing before you start asking me the questions. You have to put yourself in the right frame of mind when you do this. So when we put ourselves in the right frame of mind, you stand up, and I know we're on radio, but we stand up, and again, we do that Wonder Woman pose, and I want you to very prominently say, I am the creator of me. I am a Wonder Woman. I am a rule breaker. Shout it to the rooftops, and now ask the question.
And believe it.
and believe it.
Yeah, you can
That-
say it, but you got to believe it.
But believe it. That's so when I actually talk to people, I get them up, I get them moving, and I get them yelling because now they believe it. And so when you ask the question, now you really want to know the answer.
Great. Okay, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to pick a few questions from the table of contents.
Okay.
And you tell me what it's all about.
Perfect.
All right, this one is curious to me. What is my biggest secret? How does that affect somebody?
So, do you know what your biggest secret is? Because honestly, I didn't know mine. But we all have a big secret, and we all have something that makes us amazing. So, what is your biggest secret? Could be that you're super organized and organization brings you joy, and that's your biggest secret. It could be that you have the ability to make other people laugh. It could be that you're a great parent or a great caregiver. What is your super secret sauce towards who you are? So I learned, because in going through these questions, had to learn what my super secret was. And so I went out on Facebook and actually asked that question of people.
You took a poll.
I took a poll on Facebook. I left it open-ended because you don't want to take a poll. You want to leave it open-ended. And people really came back to me and said that I'm approachable, I'm friendly, I'm nice, I'm happy. And so I learned that my super strength is that I'm happy. And I make other people happy just by being me. So what is your secret strength?
So once you know what your secret is, you use it to your advantage.
Absolutely.
So you incorporate that to make a better quality of life for you and for other people.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, let's do another one. When I die, what is the one sentence I want said about my life?
What do you want said about your life? So that question really comes because that's how you should be living your life. Because for me, I live my dash, right? The year you're born, the year you die, and then there's a dash. And that dash represents who we are. And so that question really brings up what's important to you and what do you ultimately want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered for working 60-hour weeks and missing all of your kids' events? Do you want to be remembered as the grandparent that made it to every baseball game for your grandkids? Do you want to be remembered as the grandparent who was off traveling the world with kids, without kids? What do you want to be remembered for? Maybe you just want to be remembered as the neighbor who calls and checks in on people. What do you want to be remembered for?
And then do it.
And then do it and live your life to that.
All right, so it's self-discovery.
It is. And it's a huge self-discovery because, again, remember, we're breaking rules. So we're not living our life for what we think other people want us to be. We're living our life for truly how we want to be remembered.
So that's like somebody just all of a sudden doing something that sounds crazy to a lot of people. And there's like, well, I'm going to sell all my belongings and I'm going to go live out of a motor home and travel the United States for 5 years. And people are like, what? But that's breaking the rules of traditional, thinking of that sounds crazy, but it's not for you.
Exactly. So again, we're not talking about what's right for everyone. We're talking about what's right for you.
I love it. Okay, how about this one, Karen? What does quiet sound like? Why is that a question to ask yourself?
So hopefully many of you meditate. I don't like quiet. That's really where the question came from. I'm just a busy person. But quiet is when you really discover things and things that maybe you want and don't want in your life. When you're not quiet and you're busy all the time, you don't have time to understand different things. So sometimes we need to be quiet. And sometimes we just need to sit. and not say anything. And whether that is through meditation, through yoga, through going to the beach, through working out. Sometimes just by working out, you're quiet. But be quiet.
I find that sometimes when I'm quiet, like early in the morning, and I want to have my coffee, and I don't want anybody to bother me when I have that first cup of coffee, right? By the first cup of coffee, you can talk to me. The second cup, I'll talk back to you, right? So I always say. But that's my quiet time, and that's when I think.
Exactly.
And then I'm able to think about things that come to me that probably wouldn't come to me if I was got really busy with my day without having that time.
Yes, absolutely. And you need that quiet time to just be still and think.
Yeah. And caregivers, if you're a current caregiver, you need the quiet time. You're so busy. You need that downtime and take advantage of it whenever you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And probably have time for one more question.
Okay.
This one's curious. This one says, why are questions more important than answers?
Society gives us the answers, but not our answers. So we want to ask our questions to get our own answers.
Example.
So you want to ask, so again, let's talk traveling the world or packing up and living in an RV. If the answer was, that's ridiculous, why would you want to do that? You need to sit back and say, but that's what I want to do. Right? And I want to break those rules and I want to do what I want to do. And that's the importance of that question.
So when you talk about breaking the rule and you wear your t-shirt that says I'm a rule breaker and you're very proud of that because it really has a different meaning.
Right.
And it really means not fitting yourself in the box of what other people think you should be or what you should do. Do what makes you happy, really, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And I have a little picture plaque in my home, and it says, do more of what makes you happy.
Exactly.
And I read that and I think, okay, good. I'm going to do this more. I'm going to do that more. And ultimately, that's what we all want, to be happy.
And do more of what makes you happy isn't answering the question, what makes you happy? It's enticing you to ask the questions, what can I do more of to be happy?
And I know what makes me happy. So, I'm going to do more of it.
Exactly.
So,
because isn't that life?
Yes, it's life. We have one life, right?
And especially if you're a caregiver, you need to ask those questions because you need to take care of yourself as well as the caregiving person you're taking care of. Sorry.
That's right. That's right.
But you need to take care of yourself also. Because if you're not here and your glass isn't full, you don't have the capacity to do what you need to do.
That's right. So how can someone get this book?
So yeah, you can go on Amazon and order the book. It's under 20 questions. So it's under, my author name is Karen K. Roberts. You can also visit my website, karenkroberts.com, to order the book. Or you can visit emerald-financialgroup.com to get way more information.
Okay, and if you've enjoyed Karen today and all that she has to say and you want some help, especially if you're a female, would like some help with your financial planning, give her a call at 561-437-6500. Her office is in Boca Raton, 561-437-6500. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
It was fun. I enjoyed. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back next week, 6:00 p.m. every Tuesday for another edition of the Caregiver Solution Info Show. Take care and have a good evening.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teal. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next